Welcome, everybody. This is Pastured Poultry Talk, episode 82. I'm your host, Mike Badger, and today I'm going to catch you up on my life, the life of the podcast, and we'll see where it goes. This will be a quick hitter, probably. I thought every once in a while I should take an opportunity to just catch everybody up on what it is that Mike is doing. Y'all probably know of my work with APA, the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association. That's a significant part of my pastured poultry experience these days. It's kind of weird, though. I spend so much time throughout the year talking about pastured poultry and living pastured poultry that I don't actually raise a lot of pastured poultry. You know, there's a paradox there, right? It doesn't make sense. But in order for me to fulfill some of my other duties inside the community, like the advocacy, the education, and just keeping the American pastured poultry producers kind of being the main point person there, I have to give that stuff precedence sometimes in terms of raising a bunch of birds or slaughtering a bunch of birds. I still do like to defeather me a chicken. That means it's getting ready to eat. So let's talk about where I've been. It's as I record here, we're going to round out March of 2019, give you some sense of timing, and came off a really, really busy winter. You know, it started in the mid-January with APA, and that conference that we did took up months of time. But generally, we were in Greenville, Texas for 3 days, had a really awesome time. We had, well over 200 people there over the course of 3 days, the unique people over those 3 days. Just really, really great, except it sucks the life out of you. Energy-wise, emotionally, you're riding high because you get all these great people coming into one spot, and just talking and sharing ideas and being transparent. And we're going to talk about transparency here in another episode. That'll be my next episode is talking about some of the pasture washing that's happening inside of the pasture poultry community right now, or just the larger chicken industry. But I'll stay focused. So I was in PASA, which is now in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, did a half a day talk with Craig Haney and Jeff Mattocks. And I got to tell you, Craig Haney gave me one of the best, most clear explanations of using the Pearson Square that I've ever seen. So that'll be a future episode. I believe it's going to be a future Grit article. It's some really practical application for a theory of balancing rations. And after PASA, I was in OFA, the Ohio Ecological Food and Farming Association conference. That was with my wife. I actually didn't go there to present on chickens, oddly enough. So that was kind of fun. I actually talked about podcasting, but I was there to talk about marketing. My wife, Kirsty, was there to talk about some policy related items with organic inspecting and just organic programs in general. Well, I missed one. I missed the NOFA, New Jersey out at Rutgers. Joseph Heckman, Dr. Heckman invited me out, did 2 talks on pricing. There's a lot of neat ideas wrapped up into that pricing and budgeting. We'll come back to that because there's a lot of great information that not necessarily from the standpoint of, if I feed this much feed and I have this much in bedding costs and all that stuff, how much do I sell a chicken for? Yeah, we get that. That's the barrier to entry, I think. So you figure that out pretty quickly. What I'm more concerned when it comes to pricing is where is the most bang for your buck going to be? Where's the most value? And it goes around questions like this is where I usually focus on is your time better spent getting feed conversion from 4-to-1 to 3-to-1, or is it better served trying to figure out how to save labor on your daily chores? And there's a lot of analysis in that, but those are the kind of questions I like to explore because they make you think, they make you become literate about what you're doing, and you're not just a monkey on a spreadsheet, right? We don't want to be monkeys on a spreadsheet. We want to actually be able to articulate, troubleshoot, and be literate when it comes to making decisions. That's the emphasis of my training programs. The last training I guess I did was in Stone Barns. I went back to Stone Barns. That was like the 4th time. This time it was like for a livestock intensive class that they ran the whole week. I was there for the poultry day, but I always like going to Stone Barns. It's fun. When I talked there, everything. I got to do my planning session, which talks about what do you want out of this pasture poultry business, and I talked about that in a very earlier episode of Pastured Poultry Talk. Pastured Poultry Set Me Free was the episode title there. And all the way through the nuts and bolts of best management practices, if you will, or just basically how to not kill your birds kind of advice, and a little bit of budgeting there. So that wrapped up my stint throughout the country. It was pretty exhausting because I was there for a while. I was going every week. And I got to say that I'm always usually unprepared for the amount of emotional labor that those things take. You had the stress of the travel. That's one thing. You had the stress of just being in a hotel room, eating crappy food a lot of times on either side of those events. So that's one thing. Then you have the emotional performance of talking and explaining and networking. And then you have to get back home and catch up on all the things you did. You guys probably have some relatable experience to that. And that's just crazy. It takes a lot of energy. Nevertheless, I do it. It's part of what I do in this side of this community. We're looking forward now. Right now, I'm in the process of planning 2020 for the APA conference. We're looking at a couple of different venues and options for that. So big things happening in 2020 with APA, I do believe, but this is not an APA podcast. So let's move on. As far as the state of the pasture poultry universe goes, there's a lot of news happening right now. Everybody always asks me, is pasture poultry growing? And I think the answer to that is usually yes. I think we can look and see we have more growers. We have more people demanding pasture poultry. That's going to bring with it the good and the bad, as they say, right? It's good because we can get more people converted into eating this type of food, producing this type of food. It's bad because we're going to get a lot of those pasture greenwashing people. I'm going to talk heavily about this in the next episode, but be on the lookout for this, folks. This is not good. There's lots of people stretching the limit of what is pasture poultry and kind of working to redefine something that's really has had now basically a 30, 40 year precedent. That's the downside. And you see this, you hear this when you go across the country and you speak and you open your email and you read Facebook and you read all these items that come through you. That's the downside. If you're just out there hauling shelters, 12 feet at a time, 10 feet at a time, 40 feet at a time, and you're knee deep in marketing and processing, you may not be in tune to what's happening out there in the world. This podcast has got to help you change that mindset. We don't want you to be locked up and surprised by all the craziness happening out there in the larger community. Let's talk a little bit about what 2019 has in store for Mike. In addition to the APA stuff that I do, what else have I got going on? What am I doing poultry wise, right? We have, I mean my wife and I have in the past done market pasture poultry and direct sales to chefs, restaurants, people. We did buying club models. We did all kinds of interesting stuff. We have operated a mobile slaughter business for a number of years. That was kind of what most people knew us for. We don't do so much of that anymore. In our production, our on-farm production stuff for pasture poultry had the luxury because of some of the other things that I do that I don't have to have birds in March in Pennsylvania right now, right? So that's just not where I'm at. And one of this will tie into one of the topics that I taught on in Greenville and in Stone Barns, and that was the idea of who it is you're selling to. Different people call this different things, right? I've always joked and poked fun at the avatar name. If you're a hipster internet marketer, you'll say your customer avatar, right? If you're just a normal dude, you're going to say, who's my target customer? I'm a normal dude, so I go with the target customer, maybe ideal customer if I want to actually sound like I know what I'm talking about. So this idea of target customer plays into how I'm raising chickens here in 2019. The reality is I want to sell chickens to people who want to buy more than one, like preferably in lots of 6. So bulk chicken orders, right? And I want people who can take them all at once. I want people who care enough that they want pasture raised, obviously. I want people who are going to recognize the value in the certified organic feed that I feed. And I want people who want not just a good eating experience, but want the best possible eating experience combined with all those other factors I just laid out. So for me, that influences what I raise. It's going to really limit my customer pool, right? That really cuts down on what I need to raise. But it's part of where I'm at right now in my pastured poultry production kind of career, if you will. So that allows me a lot of flexibility, and I can raise the bird that I want, which will be a slower growing hybrid, red bird. I really happen to really like the Sassos that So Big Farms provides. That's my first goal. And I know they eat well, and I know people love them. So that's what we do. That's what I'm going to focus on. And it's going to be mostly about me and the people who want to come along on that journey. And if it grows to something bigger than that, it does. But I'm also in central Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania. So, when I remember my wife, when she was working with the American Cancer Society, and she used to drive all around the country, or not all the country, the state, a bunch of the counties in the state. Her area was the feather and fin territory, right? Which means it's rural, unpopulated, hunters, fishermen, those types of people. Not a lot of people. I don't have a lot of urban city dwelling folks to target. It is what it is. Broilers are one thing, but what I'm going to do here, the one opportunity I think I really do have, and I'm going to put some serious effort into getting this under the ground, improving the model, is started turkeys. So I have a group of turkeys coming in end of July, going to be selling some day-old poults. I'm also going to hold a bunch of those turkeys to start. I'm going to start them, get them through the starter phase, and then turn them out as started pullets. So if you're in my neighborhood and you are interested in getting some started pullets because you just don't have the attention span to start your own turkeys without killing them, then you're my customer, right? You are the person that I want to sell to. And it may not be this listener, because I'm going to tell you how to raise turkeys in a future episode as we get closer to turkey season. There most definitely is a local market for me for started turkeys in that 6-week range. We're going to focus on that, prove that grow out model, and then raise the rest of them up for Thanksgiving. So that's my meat bird production for 2019. Pretty modest, but it's going to keep me in birds. It's going to keep me engaged in doing some of the things that I want, and not suck the life out of my year. Birds is I still have this speckled Sussex breeding program, right? One of the very nasty, ugly realities of my quest to source birds is I bought hatching eggs off of eBay, and they did okay, but they're not laying to the way that I would like them to lay. Mostly they have medium eggs, right? They're just on the cusp of being large eggs. There could be a lot of different reasons for this. I could have screwed them up. I don't know that that's the case. I don't tend to think it is, but I could have. It could have been that I hatched small eggs to begin with, and that's what I got. It could be genetic. And that eggs were very small when I bought them and hatched them. On the upside, the roosters are really, really good size. A speckled Sussex rooster should be in the 9-pound range, and we're there. I mean, we got those roosters that big and more. So the really good roosters, the hens are just kind of bleh, kind of on the fence right now about whether to hatch a next generation and see if I can select for the bigger eggs, or slaughter them and get some more from Murray McMurray. Those are kind of my choices at the moment if I want to go with speckled Sussex. So we'll talk more about that. It might just be a sign that I shouldn't be messing around with breeding chickens. That may be the real lesson here, that I'm just too dense to listen. We'll give it a good try one more time. How about that? They're the birds that we're raising. And then I also have ready to lay pullets coming in. You guys, if you're listeners to this show, you know that I'm a ready to lay pullet dealer, and got a few thousand birds coming in here in mid-May. I still have some availability as I record this. I got a couple thousand coming in the fall. Still have some availability there, but there are significant portions of each one of those flocks taken up. I get a lot of interest from across the country, like Texas and Florida and Georgia and all these points that are just too far away to sell. And if you want to know my thoughts on ready to lay pullets, 2 episodes you can reference is episode 69, which is the idea the economic benefit of buying ready-to-lay pullets, and episode 75, which is just some acclimation style tips. When you buy them, how do you receive them and treat them and get them acclimated to your farm and your flock? So 69 and 75 of Pastured Poultry Talk, 2 good episodes there for ready-to-lay pullets. We'll do another ready-to-lay pullet show probably in April to make that release. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer ready-to-lay pullet questions. It's one of the core things that I do offer. So finally, the next big upgrade here for 2019 is a farm store. And to make our farm store, I first got to unload it from all of the yard sale storage stuff that we have going on. We didn't have a yard sale last year. My shed stayed full. I need the farm store for one reason, really. I need a place to store some stuff that I want to sell. That's what a store does, right? What I specifically want to do is have a showcase area for plucker, scalder, and charcoal grill. These are all some of the equipment that I sell. Plucker, scalders, processing equipment, the charcoal grill, how to cook them. So you kill them, you raise them, you kill them, and you eat them. Have you guys noticed a trend yet? It's about eating chicken. It's about raising chicken, killing chicken, let's be politically correct. It's about humanely slaughtering chicken. It's about getting them ready to eat and then eating them. How do you cook them? And that's where I'm focused at. So we got pieces across that whole spectrum. I need that showcase area so that I can bring people in. They can see it. They can know that I have a store hours. And we're going to stock feeders, kill cones, and some of those smaller items, wooden crates, those things, so people can roll in during store hours, look at it, buy it. If they order ahead, they can be there, picked up. That's the idea. And by the way, we'll have a freezer full of some chicken, and we'll have some eggs, and we'll have some flowers, and we'll have some whatever else we're producing. It's not going to be as cool as Spence's stories out there building this nice rustic store out of lumber from his own trees around his existing walk-in cooler that's multi-purpose, got a point in the future, a failure point. If the store goes under, what does he do with it? He makes a bed and breakfast or something. If you can listen to episode 40 of the Fighting Farmer podcast, Spence talks a little bit about a store, but so he's got this store going on too. I have a shed, a prefab shed that is storing yard sale stuff. I'm going to unstore the yard sale stuff and create the storeroom environment. So that's my plan. That's my short list. That's got to happen. And that will drive some other opportunities, I think. And finally, the other really cool thing I have going on this summer, it's not necessarily pasture poultry related or at all really, but the wife and I and the kid are going to raise pumpkins. We're going to have pumpkin patch, not the traditional, come walk through our pumpkin patch and pick out your beautiful orange head. It's going to be more along the lines of ornamental pumpkins / edible. And that'll be our first year really growing pumpkins. So going to take that slow. And then this year, Cameron and I are going to ramp up our cut flower growing, and we're going to add more sunflowers. And of course, he's going to have more eggs for sale. That's how we're going to get through 2019 here from the springtime through the fall and into the winter. That's where we're at. I know everybody else is you should have already been planning and you're already implementing your plan. I'm just now starting to talk about it because, I'm behind, right? It's the end of March and I'm behind. So no better way to start your season than from behind. So the final update I have for you then today for this episode is about the podcast. I love this podcast. I love going to shows and I love meeting people like Maria Loesch that says, "Hey, Mike, nice to meet you. Listen to the show." I feel that there's a lot of benefit, a lot of knowledge that we can give throughout this podcast, a lot of exchange of ideas. Even though you're listening to me, I still do rely on a lot of people talking to me and asking questions. And for the show, that happens through our Facebook group, which is Pastured Poultry Talk. But Pastured Poultry Talk, I've come to realize, needs to be a little bit more than, what breed should I use, or do you have any brooder designs, or whatever the nuts and bolts style of production happens to be. particularly. So here's how it really comes down to me when I think about this. I spend so much time talking about producing. It is the thing that I talk about most. When questions come into APA, that's what I talk about. When I go out on the road and talk at conferences, that's what I talk about. How to. And there's a piece of me that loves and thrives on that how to. It's how I earn a living in a lot of ways. It is by articulating and explaining and making and training that how to. However, this is Pastured Poultry Talk. This is a Mike venture, and it needs to be something. I need something more than more how to, if that makes sense. And I really like it. I like the technical pieces of everything that I do. I'm a technical writer, for crying out loud. I'm a technical minded person. So I like getting deep inside of, things like genetic potential or the nuances of methionine versus lysine levels across for turkeys, those kind of things, and tying that back to production and getting a bird out there that's healthy, profitable, and great tasting, right? That's good stuff. I love it. But I don't want Pastured Poultry Talk, and this is what I've come to realize. I don't want Pastured Poultry Talk to be all about how to make a chicken or a turkey or an egg layer. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's a lot of sources for that, and I want to continue to be a source for that. But I guess what I'm saying is, expect as we go through the years, as we go through the show, and I'm only 80 episodes into this podcast, so I feel like I'm still kind of figuring it out, and you guys are sticking with me, and I dig it. I love it. It's great. But we're gonna dig a little deeper, if you will, and expect to see some production tips, really probably quick hitting production tips, technical, very isolated in manner. So we're not going to go soup to nuts on any topic. We might go 10 minutes on something very specific, and it'll be actionable. Those type of technical tips, they're going to still come. One of the big aha moments I had when I was in one of the conferences, actually a couple of the conferences, is just listening to people talk about marketing, and specifically about marketing as it relates on their website, through their email. And one of my strengths in marketing is website marketing, SEO, e-commerce, integrating email, those technical pieces of marketing. So look for regular marketing features as we go through the podcast here. And I'll just say, to forecast my intent, some of that marketing talk will be designed, all of it will be designed to help you and give you something that you can do to improve and give you the reason behind it. But part of that will also be designed, I'll put myself out there for additional consulting offers and really what is one of my core strengths. So we'll put that out there. We'll make it known, and we'll get you ramped up and better positioned with some of your digital marketing and understanding the technology of it. And finally, we're going to talk about politics, right? We need to get knee deep in the poultry politics world, and we need to start promoting what it is we do, why we do it, and just talking through the issues on a more structured, regular basis. Unfortunately, it's a part of what you need to do as a direct marketing pastured poultry farmer. You need to be aware of all that crap happening around you. You can't live in the bubble. You can't isolate yourself and expect to succeed. You need the power of your community, and you need to be united against the onslaught that's coming our way, which is more and more pressure, downward pressure on the model and on the price and on the ideals of pastured poultry. It's coming, it's here, it's going to intensify, and we need to be able to speak out and refute upstarted ventures who are going to be raising hundreds of thousands, 700,000 birds a week to process in their facilities in confinement grow out barns with access to an outdoors that they call pasture-raised. These are people who need to be called out. There's a lot of bogusness happening in the pasture poultry space and the poultry space in general, and we need to have those conversations in a respectful way, of course. And that's pretty much it. That's what's going to happen here with Mike in 2019. I would really love if there's somebody else out there that wants to explore a podcast. shoot me an email. I'd love to talk with you a little bit about it. See, maybe I can even help. I think we need more voices educating our consumers about pastured poultry, and podcasting is a great medium to do it. But that's all I got right now. And remember, folks, this show is made possible by the awesome people at Badgers Millside Farm. You can find ready-to-lay pullets, processing equipment from Poultryman, commercial charcoal grills, some feeders, some kill cones, all that kind of cool stuff at millsidefarm.com. And tell me that Mike sent you when you reach out. Thank you all.